2 weeks, 3 weeks, I don't know, 4 weeks, and we're back. Actually, we're already getting messages. People want to see us. People want to see us. We're back from summer break.
Hey, all right. People are sending us messages already. Back from the break. And Will isn't even here, and we're getting messages. Holy cow.
Yeah, Will's, what do I want to say? He's still working. I mean, we took a summer break because all of us had a lot of projects, and we're just kind of overwhelmed from work. Not that we're supposed to talk about that kind of stuff, but that's where we were. We just all popped away for a few weeks and put our lives back in order, and we're back. We're hoping for some questions because hey, it's no driving gloves, and we're going at this with no gloves and no plan. We know there's some things going on in the automotive world. You know, since we went away, Lotus introduced some new cars, a couple fights in Formula One. We're trying to avoid the electric car news that was in, but Riven's got a truck out. Riven's got the fastest pickup truck in the world, or Rivian. Still want the Rivian guys on the show. Still working on that.
When's your buddy from Tesla coming on?
I don't know. He seems to be playing in space lately.
Yeah, well, you know.
So, and I think he just broke up with his girlfriend, so he could be.
That happens.
You know. You wonder, would he even notice? You know, he seems to work all the time. I mean, they might have broke up months ago, and he just went home and said, "Where the heck did she go?" Now,
oh, she must be out shopping again.
Yeah,
that was a joke. That was a joke, folks. Getting back to that, we don't have a topic. So other car people have done shows and things like that. So is this a podcast about nothing?
Yeah, I'm actually working on a podcast about nothing, kind of inspired by the old Jerry thing, and heard some interesting.
That's what this show was.
I heard. Well, I guess Seinfeld is a car guy, even though he doesn't.
That's where I was going with that, John.
I know. Were you going to talk about the new Seinfeld?
There's new. I'm out of touch with reality. There's new Seinfeld? Question mark. Did I miss that?
I'm not sure. I heard Jerry on a car podcast that he's pretty much a regular on, and I think he'll be on more often because now he's staying in California instead of New York, and the podcast's out of California. And he was talking. He doesn't own Seinfeld or anything anymore, but whoever owns Seinfeld sold it to Netflix, and Netflix is remastering all the shows, putting them into 4K. And it kind of looks like from the preview, they're recutting all the episodes and it might become a chronological order show. Kind of like if you watch The Godfather, the complete epic, it's like a 6-8 hour movie, and it has episodes 1 and 2 all chopped up, so it's completely chronological. And it's the only way to watch The Godfather. Unfortunately, I don't think it's aired in 5 or 6 years, and it's just like once on HBO. It's not out on DVD. It's not out on streaming. I have a VHS copy of it, and I do have a VHS player, but I just can't watch that inferior TV. But so I'm kind of excited about the new Seinfeld. I guess we can really stretch and say that's a car thing.
A little bit, but now that you bring up TV shows and movies, I think we've talked about covering this topic. I don't recall covering it unless it was a show I missed. Have we talked about some of the famous cars that have been in movies and TV and some of our favorites from various movies and shows? I don't think we've done that because there's some pretty significant cars out there, and everybody knows the Bullet Mustang and the Gone in 60 Seconds cars and the original movie, folks, not that crappy remake. But some of the oddball ones that have shown up over the years. I mean, there are some great movie cars that are oddball cars and people don't really know about.
Yeah, we've discussed doing that, and we always put it off until we have more hosts, or it's you and I, or it's me and Will, or me and Sean, or whatever. Kind of wanted to have more hosts to do that for maybe a little bit more excitement.
Well, if they would ever join us, they could do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, we got a few people watching. I'm going to tell a little story. It's a little tragedy.
All about how his life got flipped, turned upside down.
Well, I moved out to Bel Air,
Bel Airs were nice cars.
The parents left. Actually, yeah. My parents left the keys to the brand new Porsche, and I figured, would they mind? Well, of course not. Well, no, I'll do that. But if anybody out there wants to throw out some TV cars, pop it into the chat or that, and Derek's going to think of some. I'm going to try to think of something. I'm actually going to try to think of two things at the same time while I'm telling this little story. Unfortunately, we'll never get her on the show to talk about it, and we're hoping to get Zara on the show at some point. And 18 months ago, she had bought this, and I've alluded to it. She bought this kick-ass Cadillac, heavily modified SEMA show car. Picked it up at a great price, kind of a ATS-V coupe prototype. This thing was a wide body, had 12-inch wide rear tires, 10-inch wide fronts, 21-inch diameter wheels. It was a 2-liter 4-cylinder, putting out about 425 horsepower on E85. Just an absolute gorgeous car. And just wanted to have her to come on and talk. I mean, it was a badass car. And I keep talking because mid-August, she was going over to a friend's house, going down the interstate in the rain. Somebody cut her off, and it spun into the median and is no longer with us. Well, kind of no longer with us. If you're adventurous, it is on Copart. Go back to our previous episode about Copart and learn how to buy a car on Copart. But it is available on Copart. Look for a 2015 Cadillac ATS Coupe it's in Birmingham. It's a 20,000 mile car. Believe me, if you can pick it up, you're going to pick it up for a steal. You can do a little bit of body work, do a little tweaking to the suspension. Biggest expense is going to be the side curtain airbags went off. The car's in pretty good shape. Just the dollars and cents didn't make sense to save it. So I really, like I said, wanted to get on, talk about the car, but it's gone, and she's still very upset about it. She loved that car, and bought it 3 months. She bought it December 31st of 2019. 3 months later, COVID set in. She isolated herself literally through all of COVID. Hardly ever went out of the house. Did go on a few errands. Started to go back to work about 3 months ago, working in the office a little off and on. So in 18 months of owning the car, she only got to play with it for 6 months. I really feel bad. I really, really wish it was my car. It was a fucking bad Cadillac. And like I said, if you're interested, and if you do buy it, I know where the wide body front fenders are in case you actually want to put wide body. And as I always say, it's not a wide body that's glued on. These are molded in fenders, welded on under all, it's a Will Posey Big Oak Garage type wide body, not a Liberty Walk rivet me on kit and make it look like a Ranchero. So
rivets, I use wood screws.
Some people do. So let's see, what are we getting here in the comments? Lane's joined us for a while.
Lane's talking about Death Race 2000, which if you haven't seen that movie, I'm not sure if I want to say you should watch it. It's you should watch it, not because it's high quality of any kind, but you get a good laugh out of it. It's a pretty funny movie. I guess I'd call it a B movie. It might be even lower than that. I'm wondering if MST3K ever riffed it. That'd be pretty good if they did.
I think it's probably too new for MST3K unless they happen to do it in one of the remakes. I don't know. They might even still be on in the air.
They came back for a while. I don't know if they still are, but it's a pretty funny little film there. So
you watch it for the cars. I mean,
yeah.
Right. It's like I'm trying to think. There's a Charlie Sheen one that's got a pretty lousy plot. There, he's racing across the country with something. and some woman, and I don't know. It's along
Not
that
every
line.
Charlie Sheen
Maybe
movie?
it's like you remember the old TV show Automan?
No, John, I'm not as old as you.
It was mid '80s. It was this virtual reality type car, I guess, and it's kind of a crime show. I just remember there was the one man, and it's kind of a Tron outfit. I think it was probably based a little bit around Tron. He had this really wedge shaped car, but the main character had this little thing that followed him around called Cursor. It was this little blue dot. And then when he needed his car, quickly draw this car, and it was all highlighted. Just
Lord, no, I
talking
have
about
never
really,
seen this, but
I don't even
that
know if
is
you. I don't know if
something.
you could even find it on streaming anymore. It's. I just read about it the other day. I mean, I always remember Cursor. I always remember the car. I always kind of think it was like the car from the Wraith, the PPG Chrysler prototype from the mid '80s. That's another Charlie Sheen movie, but
that is,
that's not the one I was referring to. But
this thing is almost like it's got a little, man, it's got a little of that 1970s concept car vibe going on out of the mid-engine sports car realm. Very, I hate to bring up Corvettes, but very Astrovet lines to it. But then the back end almost has a very like 70s, almost, kind of Lamborghini concept, but kind of maybe some of the Bertone body.
I kind of always thought the back was very similar to the Jag XK220.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, but I mean, I saw the car on display. Honestly, it had to be 92 or 93 at a hotel I did a class at. When I was working for my father in the durable medical industry, it was on display at one of these hotels for some conference. I mean, very cheesy, had a Chrysler Turbo 3 motor in it. But I mean, again, it was a car built by PPG in conjunction with Chrysler. So it pops up. It gets talked about on some of my kit car, fiberglass car lists. I think there's 3 of them actually. And I would not be surprised to see Jeffrey Hacker end up with one at some point.
There you go. Yeah, I bet he will. But going on that, that's kind of one of the cool things. And Lane actually already touched on it. Cars in movies and TV shows, that a lot of times they're production, cars that they can get their hands on. But there are these crazy kind of one-offs that get built. Or in the case of like the car John was just talking about, maybe a kind of some of the kit cars show up in movies, not the KITT kit car, but kit cars. And like, how did that? But it's really an opportunity to go back and if you haven't seen it before, the Internet Movie Car Database, IMCDB.
We've
online.
Talked about that.
We've talked about it. It's a great place to go. Just look at cars that have been in movies. And, I mean, I'm just thinking back to, I'm blanking on the name of the movie. It was a James Garner movie, but he raced a glass bar, early, American fiberglass sports car, pre-Corvette. And just a really cool car. But I think everybody that listens to the show knows that I'm an old soul. Can we call it that, John? Can we say that? I'm a fan of early movies, black and white, talkies. I even watch some silent films every now and then. Yes, I'm getting cooler by the minute, folks. But there are some really, really cool cars that show up in the old black and white movies. And honestly, one of my favorite movies, as well as one of my favorite movie cars. Go back and look up the movie Topper, Topper. Yep. They built a custom bodied Buick for that movie. And in some ways, unfortunately, the Gilmore Oil Company acquired the car at some point after the movie was done. And they redid some stuff on it. It doesn't look very much like the movie car, but it's still around. but it is just a really, really cool car that was done back in the 30s. I think it was the 36-ish, somewhere around there, that the movie was done. Maybe a little later. 37. Look at that. I pulled it up and it was 37. But it's just a cool car to see driving around in this movie.
Yeah, I think you've alluded to that one before on previous episodes. I mean, I even think the movie's pretty good. I mean, a lot of times when we're talking about these car movies, either the cars are very odd or the only reason to watch them is maybe to look at the cars. The storylines aren't great. It's hard to get a good storyline. I mean, you get, I'm sorry, and throw it under the bus, but even you might agree with me. I'm really not sure anybody would know what Corvette fever is without Star Wars. That would have been something quickly forgotten if it wasn't for Luke Skywalker being in it, because I believe that was filmed before Star Wars, released after Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the mid 80s, when I watched that show, I did not find, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of the 70s custom stuff other than some of the van stuff.
I was just going to say, except for the vans.
It, Counts Customs or whatever used to be on History Channel. It really, it just, I never understood it. It's it's a good looking Corvette, and at one point in time, I go, maybe I could pick that up because Corvette should be devalued for the more you customize it. And I don't think you could customize a car backwards like that.
Oh, I don't know. Give Will a chance. He can do it. There are some great lanes getting some great comments in here. Actually, I wanted to scroll back up because he had one that I wanted to mention as well. He talks about the 50s, 60s future prototypes. Of course, you got the turbine car that came out of Chrysler, but I've always thought the what if future prototypes that were built, for different things and never happened. And that is really cool because you look at some of the sci-fi movies that are being talked about, and to look back at how the sci-fi world kind of looked forward to the future and came up with these ideas of what the future might look like. And I'm blanking on the name of the movie, so I'm trying to stall for a minute here. It was it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm blanking on the actor. It was a Tom Cruise movie about the future. It was a book that they turned into a movie. Oh man, I am blanking on it.
Tom Cruise.
Yep. Hopefully somebody jumps in with the name of it before I look it up here.
Yeah, I'm going to let you look it up, but Robert really tossed out one.
Minority Report.
Yes.
Minority Report.
Yeah, and haven't they done 5 of those or something now?
I'm not sure, but the original Minority Report, which is based on the book, which is an incredibly interesting science fiction book. I don't remember the year it was written, but it was written very, very, quite a while ago. But the idea, and think about where we are right now in the auto industry and some of the things that are being talked about, because in that movie are essentially pods that arrive when you need them and then take you places.
And see, I forget
and
about
to think that book was written. I have to look up what year the book was written. See, we didn't prep for this show, so now as these things come up, we're having to recall our memory on these things, and it's not happening.
You're talking the Minority Report, and I might have watched that once. I don't know. Something I keep checking. I keep saying to my Google Chromecast with YouTube TV or whatever it's called, where you can talk to the thing. I want to watch Judge Dredd, and Judge Dredd's very similar. I don't know when Judge Dredd was written, but all the cars in it are pods. And actually, on one of my I can't remember which one of my Facebook groups, they found just about all the cars from Judge Dredd. They're just in some junkyard wasting away, along with some Back to the Future cars, along with probably the most iconic military vehicle ever pictured in a movie. And that was the mid-70s GMC RV from the movie Stripes. I can't remember what it was called in Stripes, but the old front-wheel drive GMC motorhomes that are really, really cool. From somehow it's in that same junkyard in the middle of Nevada. I was going to say Robert Isaacs there tossed out one that I want to say we really should forget, the sheep car from
the greatest movie car ever, the sheepdog van from Dumb and Dumber. There it is.
What was it? Here we go. There's a Cheech and Chong movie, is there not, where their van was made entirely out of, we'll call it hemp to be a little politically correct. And I can't remember.
So.
Was that Up in Smoke? I don't know. And I can't remember if they were eating it, or if a dog was eating it, or a sheep was eating it, or the van caught fire. I just thought at some point there was, maybe I'm wrong. Is anybody there?
I think, wasn't it a dog? Because didn't they make the reference to it in that 70s show? Because Chong was on, and there was the episode where he had to follow his dog around because it had eaten his stash, and he had to follow his dog around until he could get it back from the dog. That was a reference in that 70s show to that movie. And I think it was in the movie, the dog was eating it as well.
Yeah, that's just kind of what I remember. Maybe I'm distorted. I mean, I really didn't watch a lot of Cheech and Chong stuff. Won't get too political on that one. What else we got?
Well, I really like Kim Rich brought up the Sunbeam Alpine in To Catch a Thief, and that makes me think you got to think of things like the Italian Job and the Minis, the original Italian Job.
Come on,
let's not talk about remakes. Let's talk about originals. There's one. Well, what's the
dumb name of that movie? And because you're a Mini guy, it seems you have
that
to
dumb
watch
movie.
it.
We just talked about it, Dumb and Dumber.
No, it was. It's got a Mini in it. It's actually a modern Mini. But it's the most successful movie ever filmed, and it's the highest grossing New Zealand produced movie in the United States. And I can't get past the first 10 minutes of it. It's a really dumb movie about a guy and a stolen Mini and and I can't remember the name of it. I wish Troy was watching tonight. He could tell me. He's the one who put me onto that.
Hey, Lane, there's a sign in the No Driving Gloves office. No Wayne's World. Denied.
Where did it go? Where did it go? It's in here somewhere. Oh, here it is. I got my Twizzler thing. It's kind of Wayne's World-ish.
Oh, the Twizzler dispenser.
So, you never can go wrong with a Pacer.
That's what it was. It was the Pacer. Yep.
First asymmetrical car, or one of the first asymmetrical cars. And we know I own 2 Velocitors, so I'm into those asymmetrical jobbers.
Nobody likes those. I'm getting yelled at by Jason because we talked about the Italian Job and only mentioned the Minis. Should we jump to the Bond series and not mention the Aston Martins?
Well, we had an episode a couple of weeks ago, and I think we talked about buying or watching a show exclusively and only for the car. And this evening I threw up a picture behind me of me probably about 10 years ago at an autocross with my old Caterham 7. And I had bought the entire series of The Prisoner just because there's a Lotus 7 in the opening sequence. It never appears in the show. It's only in the opening sequence. And I spent, it had to be 120 or 140 bucks on every DVD box set for it. So I have the entire series, and I've watched the series once or twice, but I have it.
Okay. I'm gonna go slide off topic, not slide off topic, but slide off into a really odd realm, but and self-admit guilty pleasure. When I was a kid, I watched Walker Texas Ranger because of the Dodge Ram that he drove, because I was obsessed with that Dodge Ram. They came out in 94 and a half, 95 model year with the lowered fenders, the classic Dodge Ram. I was Walker, Texas Ranger, man, that Dodge Ram truck, I was all about it.
And my dad bought one of the 3500s and put a box, as a box truck. He still has it. It's a 94, and then he had a 96, and I had a 97, but like that old classic Ram.
Now here's a question for everybody that's watching and listening and commenting. How many have watched, and these are movies you pretty much only watch for the cars, Two-Lane Blacktop and Vanishing Point? Because you got to admit, those two movies, it's pretty much only for the car that you're watching them.
It's for the cars. I want to throw out one to Jason, though, because when you're talking about Walker Texas Ranger, and you did that on an episode 1 or 2 years ago, talked about Walker Texas Ranger.
I'm supposed to remember what we talked about last week.
Jason threw out. Now, okay, I didn't watch The Fall Guy exclusively for the truck. There was some Heather Thomas in that show, and that kind of made it worth watching. It's horrible to go back and watch. I mean, I give credit to Cheers and that. I can go back and watch 1982 episodes of Cheers. I can't go back and watch episodes of The Fall Guy.
No.
And then you've got the A-Team, but of course the A-Team was a pretty good show, irregardless. Or excuse me, sorry, Zara. Regardless John, of the van,
it's sorry to your co-host. That's like the greatest vocabulary sin in the world.
Yeah.
Anyway,
she slaps me every now and then she slaps me every time I say that in her presence.
Good. So, and now Dan came on and mentioned, this is funny because the way I read it, I had to reread it. The Great Herbie the Love Bug, Volkswagen. But what that kicked off in my mind when I first saw The Great was another old movie. Again, not the remake, people, with Leonardo DiCaprio, but the original. Well, number one, read the book, The Great Gatsby, because freaking amazing. But the first movie, The Great Gatsby, there's amazing cars in that. Duesenberg, Rolls Royce. I mean, that is killer classic era cars.
Yeah, I was going to say, Zara had me watch that years ago when we first went out, and I think I fell asleep in it, and now the DVDs.
You were watching were you watching the DiCaprio one?
Yeah, it was the DiCaprio version. I mean, she was the era, the Titanic was her prom theme. She's a little bit younger than me. And
King of the world.
So she was big into the Titanic, so she's big into DiCaprio. I mean, Titanic never made sense to me. I know it's not a car, but it's a transportation movie. I knew the ending. I really didn't want to watch it.
Hey, whoa. I never watched it. Don't ruin the ending for me. Okay.
Yeah.
But hey, there you go.
There's
movies with boats in them and ships.
Well, okay. There's a really cool Renault in that movie.
There actually is. And actually that's a fairly significant Renault in automotive history.
It's a fairly significant scene in the movie.
It's a very significant scene. And actually, the car that is used in the movie was essentially the sister car of the car that is still down on the Titanic. So they tried to do a very, very appropriate job of making sure those cars were representative of the cars that were on the ship when it went down. And I appreciated that about the movie. I hate movies or even TV shows where they're, especially when it's a History Channel TV show that is supposed to be representing history appropriately. Yes, here comes Derek, the curator and historian. When they represent cars that are racing and both cars either still exist or exact replicas exist of them, and they decide to use cars that aren't even from the same year or anything and just race two old cars because nobody's going to know the difference.
Well, let's see here. Robert's thrown out again, Dazed and Confused. A lot of cool cars, very big. The only thing I remember out of Dazed and Confused though was the line something about something about high school girls and I keep getting older and they keep staying the same age. That's about all I remember out of Dazed and Confused.
Hey John, if be a lot cooler if you did.
I actually saw something about Dazed and Confused, and if it was like made today, we'd be talking about like 2003 or 2004. It doesn't. If the time difference was the same. And Jason always puts out these great comments. And I've been watching Cheers. I've been watching Star Trek: The Next Generation. I've been watching Scrubs, and I've been watching Miami Vice. And I'm on a Miami Vice Facebook fan page, and they love to point out the kit cars and the Corvette Testarossa, and all the bad scenes. And there's a chase scene with a Lamborghini, and they use 3 different Lamborghinis in the chase scene. But you never noticed it when you were watching the show, I think in 84, 85, 86. But now that's the epitome of I think that lifestyle. Stretch Mercedes, Excaliburs, Testarossas, McBurney Spiders. I wasn't going to say Ferrari Daytonas, but just about everything in there. I was just it was the epitome. Jason says it right: boats, cars, and babes. And
I saw his wife comment on here earlier, so I think he needs to be careful.
Well, I was going to say on the Miami Vice page that I'm on, I can't remember, somebody actually now has found the original Scarab boat used in the show, and it's being restored as filmed condition. And it's just, it's cool. I fell in love. That's why I love cigarette boats. Back when we had my family had a boat in the harbor, there was a Scarab in there, nothing like the offshore power boat from, Miami Vice, because we were on a river in the middle of Illinois. But yeah, just it's a fantasy, and I'll be honest, it's still a fantasy.
Wait, John, because you brought up the fake Ferraris. I've heard rumor that if you jack them up and put them in reverse, you can actually reverse the odometer.
No, actually you can't, but you do have to be careful of your rage when you discover that. And the large glass windows that are behind. There's a movie reference there, John. Come on. Well, I understand there's a movie reference there. Jeez.
God.
It's also why you don't valet park your car.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
And I'll be honest, he picked a great day to skip, because he sure got a lot done in Chicago in a school day.
Especially, being the centerpiece of a parade. Come on. Well, also, Lane, we've mentioned Gone in 60. I really, really hope you're talking about the original and not the remake.
I agree with you that the original is probably.
It's still a B film, okay? I'm not saying it's not a B movie. Film.
I just have a hard time endorsing it because of the people because of the estate behind it. We'll just put it that way.
Well, the estate's one thing, but if you go back to when it was filmed and why he did it and the history behind it all, it's really freaking cool. Well, John ignores it.
Well, I was trying to figure out what Jason was talking about here.
She
didn't even know she was watching. Got to.
And now he's just hitting. He's hitting random numbers on the keyboard, and I'm wondering if she's over there yelling at him. He's like, "Help! Help!"
Forehead keyboard. Forehead keyboard. Now, and the one car I always love to throw out, and it's iconic, is I always loved Hardcastle and McCormick, the Cody Coyote. That it was a McLaren M6 kit car, I believe. MP6 kit car, slightly modified, Volkswagen chassis. All the interior shots on Hardcastle and McCormick were the executive producers Ferrari. It's a really, really cheesy car. If you ever see the what do you call it? What's the primary cars called? Not the beauty cars, or I can't remember, but whatever. Even the beauty car, the primary camera car is not that great of a car up close. But you obviously don't remember Hardcastle and McCormick, Jerry?
No, John. Again, I'm not that old. Sorry. Yeah, okay. And yet I'm the guy that talks about movies from the 30s.
Yeah. Well, I don't necessarily talk about a lot of classics that you really have to, go see. Um,
Hey guys, remember that?
I'm going to throw out.
Remember that Charlie Chaplin movie where he drove the Model T? Sorry, I
I
had
was going to
to.
say Knight Rider 2000 Trans Am. How about Knight Rider 2008 with a Mustang instead of a Trans Am? So, and then what was the one
Somebody
that was
made a comment that I wanted to comment on. I got to roll back now because we were just rolling.
Yeah, I say, and I know nobody knows this show because you can't even find it on again streaming. Is Matt Houston? I always watched because of his helicopter, and he drove an Excalibur.
So now we're going to talk about helicopters, huh?
Hey, it's all transportation.
Yeah, MASH. Probably the greatest helicopter TV show there was. Right?
John and his stories, how he can just ramble off. I got a MASH Hot Wheel size helicopter one day as a gift, and my cousins were over. And I mean, I got it that morning. My cousins were over, and I've never seen it since. I remember landing it on top of my little Fisher Price Hospital, and my brother and I had this huge Hot Wheel setup with all the play sets, and we had a couple. Well, I still have all the play sets, and I still have a couple hundred Hot Wheels. I am looking to sell those if anybody's interested. But, I've never seen the helicopter ever since, and it's bugged me. And we lived in Monmouth at the time. I bet I was 7, 8 years old. The odd things that I remember from my youth. I don't know if one of my cousins stole it or it somehow ended up in the garbage can, because sometimes, land helicopters in crazy places.
Well, and of course everybody's bringing up the Magnum PI Ferrari now.
No, Robert brought up one of the ultimate Airwolf for the helicopter venue. Mm-hmm. And then there was the show Blue Thunder. But yeah. So Kim and Jason, we're talking Magnum. Are we talking the new Magnum with the hot blonde as Higgins, or are we talking and the Ferrari? What are we at? 488 convertible in that show, or are we talking the original with the greatest mustached man alive? I know which one we're talking about. Don't give me a break.
Again, I still kind of like to go back to the originals. Remakes usually kind of suck.
Well, yeah, the original's great. And what was funny about the original, I don't know if anybody knows the backstory. The Ferrari wasn't the original cast car. They actually went to Porsche and wanted to use the newly introduced 928 and cut the roof off of it and make it a convertible. And Porsche told them absolutely not. Also, the Ferrari in Magnum was paid for by Ferrari, and it was one of the first times it's really documented of paying for internal show sponsorship, getting the car for that. And then since I brought up 928s, and you've talked about Tom Cruise earlier, the Tom Cruise U-boat commander. Did you see that 928 from Risky Business sold for like 1.8,
yeah.
2.8? I mean, 7 figures, well into the 7 figures.
Mm-hmm.
That is a lot. I mean, I don't even know. Is there a word to talk about how ginormous that celebrity attachment is? I mean, did Tom Cruise secretly buy the car just to make himself feel good?
I believe the word might be, and let me see if I can get this right, supercalifragilisticrediculosis. Is that close?
Yeah, I mean, what's a good 1980, 79, 928, even a 928S worth? 20 grand, 25 grand? Even in the Porsche world, say 50 grand. 50 grand for it, and I'm going to say 1.8 was the selling price, but it might have been into the twos. But go 1.8, that's 1.75 of celebrity value. There are a hell of a lot of other cars I'd pay 1.75 in celebrity value over Tom Cruise.
Actually, Porsche. I'd probably spend that on non-celebrity value cars. A lot of cool cars you can get for that much money that aren't celebrity cars.
No, Lane said it right there. And I know he's not saying what I'm going to say he's saying, but I'd spend 1.75 on the DeLorean from Back to the Future before I would spend. And we're talking a car, a DeLorean to a 928, I think are similar values in this world right now. Yeah, I would easily, I would much rather pay stupid money for a Back to the Future time machine than I would a 928 that really is a 928 with Illinois license plates.
Now, what would you pay for the original time machine from the first H.G. Wells movie? Did you ever watch that?
I would not have an interest in that.
No, all right. Well, that's disappointing.
No, I'd pay a lot for the TARDIS from.
All you got to do is go get one of those British phone boxes and paint it blue. Boom, you got the TARDIS. I mean, you can figure out how to make it bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. That's up to you. But it better come with flux capacitor. Yeah, exactly.
Well, they're back ordered.
Now, see, I think Jason's actually lucky because last I checked, I believe he is currently not a Corvette owner. I believe he's, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Jason. So actually, you don't have to worry about Dana going out and pulling a Big Lebowski on your Corvette. So that's be fortunate there.
I think Jason's still between cars from the offline conversations we've had. Sorry, Jason, if we're not supposed to say that on the air, but we did. Too bad.
Yeah, well, that's what you get for being a listener and supporter of No Driving Gloves. We'll talk about you even if you don't want us to.
We're the press. You got to live with it. Also, we've got a special episode coming out in a couple of days. Speaking of press, talking about the Chattanooga Motor Car Festival with
Ken Gross.
Yes, Ken Gross, the chair of the Concours. He came on, and we did a special quick episode with him. It'll release in a day or two right after this episode does. Sounds like an exciting event. I think you might see both Derek and I there. I'm really, really looking at going. I requested my press passes and heavily name dropped. So
there you go. I know Ken Gross.
Yes.
Ken's a good guy. For anybody that doesn't know Ken Gross, great guy.
There's Jason.
Awesome
he bought a truck this week. So did he?
Oh, that's right.
Did he buy a Cyclone or Cyclone 454 SS SRT 10?
No.
Chevrolet SS. Jeez. He's kind of a Chevy guy. What's here? I thought there was a car in risky business. I agree with you, Kim.
Yep, don't remember.
There definitely was the L train in risky business.
I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say, John. God. So if you had to pick your all-time favorite movie car out of everything we've talked about, other ones maybe we haven't talked about, do you have one? Could you pick one?
Well, you know me, I'd have to sit here and it's like picking what to watch on TV, go through Netflix and Hulu, and you got to go through everything under the sun.
Or TV show.
If you came up to me and you said you have 10 seconds, you can have any movie car in the world, what would you take? No, that would be an appropriate question. Or any, I'm going to say movie or television car in the world. And count down my 10 and I'll tell you. And I think I would go with the, and it's on display on the National Mall right now. I'd probably have to go with the Lamborghini Countach from Cannonball Run.
Really?
No, I'm a product of the 80s. It's that, or it's actually the McBurney Spider from Miami Vice. It would be really close. One of those two. I still would love to have a McBurney Spider. And if I decide to buy another classic toy car, I've said I'd love to have a C3 Corvette. But honestly, I would like to have a McBurney on a C3 Corvette. Are you actually agreeing with me, Lane?
Wow.
Ooh, new Harley.
Yeah.
You didn't happen to get a live wire there, did you?
And Jason bought a GMC Canyon Crew Cab 4x4.
Jason probably picked a slightly better one. 48 Tucker.
From
We
the
didn't even
movie
touch
Tucker.
on the
We didn't even
the
touch on
Tucker
that.
movie. Right.
Now, if you want to see something interesting, the main car that is used in that movie, it's kind of a light blue in color, if I recall correctly, is actually a just kind of a fake movie prop. Last I knew, I believe it's still there. I haven't checked recently, but the Ypsilanti Automotive Heritage Museum in Ypsilanti, Michigan, actually has that movie prop car in the museum.
I remember, there used to be a fabulous Tucker collection behind my ex-wife's office in Alexandria, Virginia. And when that gentleman passed away, he donated his entire collection to the AACA museum. Excuse me. Absolutely gorgeous Tucker displays in that. And the funny thing I was going to say about the Tucker is it goes back to our Airwolf Blue Thunder MASH conversation. Helicopter motor, car. What could go wrong?
Absolutely nothing.
And I got it right. Lane's agreeing with me. Countach from the Cannonball Run and a 21 Street Glide. By the way, Lane, I got a bunch of aftermarket Harley seats in the garage. I need to get.
Oh, dear Lord. What is this becoming a classifieds ad? Like you were advertising Hot Wheels earlier. Now you're like, oh, I got a bunch of Harley seats in the garage.
Well, Will's not advertising for help anymore. So,
well, that's true. That's true. I could use some mental help on my end, but
I think we all could use some mental help. My psychiatrist tells me that every week, sometimes twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here, 48 Tucker.
I'm feeling really left out here, John. You didn't reciprocate the question to me.
Oh,
like, what?
That's me.
God, you're so selfish.
Okay. So, Derek, what would be your choice? I'm giving you 10 seconds. Pick any movie or TV. Can it be TV? Movie or television car.
Okay, good. I don't even need 10 seconds. The Nash Bridges Cuda. 1971 Hemi Cuda. Wait. Take that back. Now, I said Hemi, but it might not have been a Hemi. It might have been. I think it was the four. It was a Hemi.
No, in the show, the car wasn't a real Hemi car. I believe it was a 440 car, but it was depicted as a Hemi in the show.
Right.
And just like Don Johnson and, I did pick a movie car and a TV car, just like what Miami Vice did to the values of Ferrari Daytonas in the 80s, Don Johnson did it with Nash Bridges and the Cudas in the 90s. I mean, that's why those Hemi Cudas are $2 million cars, $1.5 million cars. Who knows what they are today? $5 million cars.
Car. I was looking the car up because again I wanted to prepare, but it's the what appears to be the most recent article. It's valued at about $3.5 million.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say the way cars are right now. I actually have seen a couple articles that the used car market's sliding a little bit right now. Maybe things are correcting themselves, but there ain't any microchips coming. Robert agrees with you. Absolutely, the Cuda. So
it is just a sweet car.
Jason's asking
something about it, man.
And I kind of know the answer. Movie budgets are extreme. Why didn't they just use the real cars? Because really, it's a movie. You're not going to know the difference, and they are treated horrendously. They're gluing cameras to them. They're getting beat up. They're getting knocked around. Take your $3 million Hemi Cuda. Are you going to give it to a television production crew for a season and let interns and all these people bang around and beat on it? I've got a friend who helps broker some movie cars for movies that get shot in here in Alabama and in Georgia. And it's dangerous because the cars never come back in the same condition they go out. We were asked many times at the museum to donate, or could they use cars as props? Absolutely not, because they never, ever come back in the same condition. To be honest, it's cheaper to say, normally it's cheaper to use replicas, easier to use replicas. You can do whatever you want with them. I mean, it's like in Ford versus Ferrari, everything was a replica from, I want to say Superformance, but maybe they were ERA. I can't remember where the replicas were from in that. And what was the other one that I was thinking of that had something to do with replicas?
I don't know, but just think of it this way: Dukes of Hazzard. That's all you got to just think of Dukes of Hazzard. Do you really want the car treated like that? I will say though, the Transformers series, and Jason brought it up. Some of the more modern shows and movies will use real cars, and General Motors was kind enough to work with Michael Bay's and the Stingray concept, the 2009 Stingray concept that Tom Peters did. Was actually used in the Transformers movies. Now, they also built some a Roadster replica and some things like that did some of the more dramatic driving stuff like that. But when you see the actual Stingray coupe, of course known as Sideswipe in the movies, that is the real deal car. They were actually GM handlers were driving it and using it in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Lane threw out here something that he actually was lucky enough to want Don Johnson's clothes. I can't tell you how often I tried to dress like Don Johnson in the 80s. Surprise, surprise. It was just a thing. My Miami Vice calendar, my boat shoes, no socks. Hey, I'm not a very stylish guy. I mean, here I am in a polo. I just said this morning to somebody, "Hey, look, I'm untucking my shirt for a change." I don't understand style. I'm a geek. So, but Don Johnson, I wanted to dress like him, and I'll be honest, I love the double-breasted suits of Philip Michael Thomas. So I had all my suits, and I had a lot of suits in junior high were double-breasted. See, and Robert's saying in response to Lane says, Duke's trashed over 300 Chargers. Robert says that's why there's no Chargers left to buy. How many Chargers did they make? I mean,
Yeah.
It really, exactly. I mean, they made thousands of them. So they wrecked 1% of them. I mean, if they made 30,000 Chargers, which I think is a realistic number, they wrecked 1% of them. It's not the reason Chargers are hard to come by. Chargers are hard to come by because they're Mopars. And Mopars are ungodly expensive to restore. And for many years, they just got scrapped because you couldn't afford to restore them and nobody made repo parts. Now that they're worth something, people make repo parts and things get restored.
Well, and if you try to buy one, it's painted orange. So,
well, we had, when I was born, Mommy and Daddy had a 70 Charger and a 69 Chevelle SS. They went away years ago when my brother was going to be born, and they traded him on a 77 Dodge Aspen SE station wagon, green with wood grain sides and tan interior. But we'll leave that for another story of dumbest moves ever made in the car world. And, I always have that fantasy of coming across this Charger and, maybe, getting it back for him, or it was blue, black vinyl top. And, but there's a good chance it went away with the Dukes of Hazzard. Good chance, I always am amazed when these people go back and find cars from, this is my grandfather's. Well, Will's got that one. It was, the guy's 57 Chevy from when he was a kid. And I think he's actually owned it his entire life. But to go back and find things like that, it's just, I don't know how you do it. I don't even know where to begin. How do I go find my 88 LeBaron from when, I was, in 1992, 93,
So speaking of Chargers, that made me think of two cars. It parlayed into one car, and then that made me think of another TV show. Don't ask me why my mind works this way. But I was a big fan of Burn Notice. And of course, Michael Weston, the character, drives a 73 Dodge Charger. And that, to me, that is a cool car in that show. I mean, that is just, the storyline of who Michael Weston is, that car, of course it was, in the show, it was his dad's car. There was a connection to his dad, things like that. But that was amazing. And there's some other cool cars in that. Fee drives some really cool modern sports cars in that show. So that's another show where you're kind of wrapped up in the, burned spy, storyline, but there's these cool car scenes going on, stuff like that. So that's really cool. And then it for some reason sparked in my mind the show Supernatural. I don't know if you've ever watched that, but those guys drive around in a 67 Chevy Impala, but it's a 4-door Impala hardtop. And it's just, again, it's all blacked out. And for the storyline, it really fits, that whole storyline of what the two brothers are doing. And it's just a black sedan that's rolling up. And I think that's the other cool thing about movie cars, or, how they cast a car. That sounds really weird, but how they cast a car in a TV show sometimes, or a movie, and it just builds the persona of the main character. And I think that's cool.
I've always said it'd be cool to be a music director or something for movies, but doing the car stuff, it's because if you really care about the movie, you have people like us that we understand the cars. And a lot of times I'm really good at telling you what you drive without ever seeing what you drive, because there's certain cars have that feeling about them. You said Chargers, and all of a sudden I thought of Hunter and their Dodge Daytona Turbo Z, whatever the black-haired chick's name was. And Jason threw one out at me, and, Derek, you just named two shows I've never watched in my life, and Jason's thrown one out. What cars were on the Waltons? For some reason, I think of the Waltons as, you're like telling me the great cars of Little House on the Prairie.
There were some sweet horse-drawn carriages in that show. Oh, sorry. There's that transportation curator coming out again. Actually, the funny thing is Jason wrote the Waltons, and all my mind went to, and I know what the Waltons is. I know what old show, but all my mind could go to was the truck from Sanford and Sons.
Can you even talk about Sanford and Son anymore? So I used to, of course, watch Different Strokes, and I always loved the scenes where you saw his limo, Mr. Drummond's limo.
I remember that now. Yeah. Was it
it was just a 10-inch or 12-inch stretch Cadillac. It had the long door with a little.
It was a Cadillac, window. If I remember right. Yeah.
So
the Waltons, let's see. John Boy drove a 2829 Model A Ford Coupe. Jim Bob drove a 2829 era Model A Roadster. Mary Ellen and Kurt drove a 32 Model B sedan delivery. And Cindy drove a 41. It doesn't say if it was a Ford, 41 red convertible. And John's Woody was we're going there. Huh?
I was saying, boy, what a 41 Plymouth.
John's Woody was a Plymouth.
I forgot to tell everybody, we're actually changing the no driving gloves a little bit, going for more of this humorous and maybe a little bit more adult humor. We're going to reluctantly listen to Matt Farah.
But we are not going to become him in any way, shape, or form.
I've actually lost 4 inches of girth in the last few weeks, and I'm down from 192 to 167. So, no, we're not becoming Matt Farah.
Dang, 192. That's what wow. All right. Yeah. When I lost all my weight, I went from like 195, 200 to down to 170. And then I dropped down almost to 160. Back up around that 170 mark right now.
Yeah, I want to be in that 165, 170 range. And the majority of it is I pretty much cut soda out of my diet. I drink that's all I drink is diet soda. And cut it out, change it over to Jack Daniels, and we're good now.
Ooh, I like that.
No, I cut it out. It actually created some illnesses, and now I'm drinking 144-ounce Polar Pop from Circle K a day, and I'm going to start weaning that down to go abruptly from 3 of those a day and 3 Mountain Dews a day to nothing. And my body didn't like it very much.
Dear Lord, John.
But that's easily 15 pounds of that 25 that I lost.
Yeah. My thing now is I got to get off the coffee. I drink way too much of that. I'm wired half the time. Scotch helps with that. It brings me back down.
No, I had an incident a few weeks ago. I've sworn off alcohol for a long time again. At least until my next date.
Yeah, there you
go. Stanford.
I'm glad to hear you call it pop. You just went up a notch in my book. Yes, the Northerners on the show, John and Derek, will call it pop.
Yeah, Jason, that goes back to Bart. Actually, no, it doesn't. I don't know what the heck Bart calls it. But
yeah, I don't know. That was the weirdest thing, honestly, the first time I ever met John, because I'd gone to Birmingham, Alabama. I took the 2 Mustangs, Mustang Serial 1 and Mustang Concept, down to the barber. And they're like, the first day, they're like, come on, we're going to lunch. I'm like, all right, cool. And we go rolling to lunch, and they're going around the table ordering. I think we went to some little barbecue joint, if I remember right.
Probably Rusty's. We always went to Rusty's.
Yeah. And the guys are like, oh, I'll have the pulled pork sandwich or whatever, and give me an orange Coke. I'm like, what is an orange Coke? And it's like, yeah, I'll do I don't know, I don't even remember everything, but everything was a something Coke. And I was like,
Lane says it's a Coke. You can tell he's from the South.
I'm like, do you have anything other than Coke? Do you have like Dr. Pepper? Do you have like other things? Like what's going on here? I got really, really confused there. And if you're truly from the North and truly from Michigan, you know that when you don't feel well, no matter what illness it is, you always drink Vernors.
No, I was actually told today to drink Buffalo Rock by the ex-wife of the son of the owner. I bet there's no but let's see here. What are we talking? Coke, no, it's Pepsi. Coke, I don't understand why people even drink Coke. I have been a Pepsi person since I used to like going and taking the Pepsi challenge. I never lost. Horrible yellows they used back then. Oh, we're straying. We're at an hour. We've talked a lot. Yeah. This is a hell of a topic. We're probably going to have to revisit this one, maybe with somebody else, and get.
We got to have some of the other shows.
Somebody mentioned American Graffiti earlier, and of course, Will might discuss American Graffiti. Dazed and Confused did have some pretty cool cars that was brought up. We didn't bring up the Vista Cruiser from 70s show. I mean, we talked about the 70s show, but we didn't bring up the Vista Cruiser.
Oh, the Vista Cruiser. Man, I still want one of those. However, I will say.
Or the Toyota from 70s show.
Oddly, my wife and I were watching, okay, I'll admit it, believe it or not, watching the Grand Tour. And I have always been a fan of a certain car. And we're watching it. And just so happens, and of course, here we go again with connecting myself with old souls, as we'll call them. James May shows up in his car. And what is it? It's one of my favorite cars. And Christine goes, oh, that's a really cool car. Maybe we should think about getting one of those. I was like, sorry, what? 1971 Buick Riviera, the boat tail Rivy. So a boat tail Rivy is in my future. Finally, I love the car. I think they're cool. We're going to be getting one. It's going to be awesome.
Is that the next one on the list? Or the next one you're pursuing? I'm sure something will stumble into it.
I'm still hunting the Corvette. I am still hunting a Corvette. Don't think I'm not, because I am. But the Rivy is going to be high on the list. And parts for one of the cool projects I'm working on. And then I just noticed that Jason said, I think we found next week's topic. And I think in referring to that, I think what he means is seeing we're talking about soda, pop, whatever you want to call it, Cokes. We're referring to beverages. So we're going to talk about beverage advertising cars, specifically, I think the Red Bull Minis.
Two funny things. One, I was thinking we talked Devco milk trucks. Two,
oh yes, Divco. I love it.
I'm looking at renting a warehouse somewhere here in town, and one of the co-owners of the building's son is in Red Bull promotions and is in charge of all the Red Bull minis in Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia. So maybe we could have a special guest when we talk about the Red Bull minis.
There we go.
I don't know. This has been a great topic. I think we might continue and pick it up next week. I don't know if we've ever really done that, but I think we're going to do that. Everybody who's been in the chat has been great tonight. This is going to give you a week to prep. We're going to be back.
Now we got to do the prep show. Yeah.
Now we'll be back. We're going to be 9:00 on Wednesdays from now on, at least for the foreseeable future. We're going to.
It also helps with that not so kid friendly part of the show.
It helps with that. It does help with everybody's schedule. Like I said, we were a little bit challenged, and that's why we nobody was making it at 8:30. So we're doing 9 unless we have special guests in that, which we'll try to let you know. And we do have a list of guests. We actually had to cancel on a big one because we took that time off, but we've got Mark Green coming up. I know we're going to talk to Tony Watley again. We're actually having somebody on from a Jumpstart, I want to say a Jumpstart company, to tell you why you need these battery packs and proper jump starting techniques. Who else do we have coming up? We might have Will's windshield lady on, the guy that makes, the lady that makes all of Will's customs glass. Your Bradley GT2 owners might be interested in that one until you find out how much a custom windshield costs. And we're hoping to have somebody from Copart's cashforcars.com on, which is their version of Carvana or whatever, where they'll buy your car cash. They've got a really, really cool program that I really, really like. And I just want to get some more details on it. And I've got 5 or 6 more Post-it notes here of names on it. So we've got some guests coming up. Next week, though, I think it's going to be TV, movie, advertising, cars. You guys are going to help dictate it.
And we'll just go off the rails as we always do. Oh, we could talk about trains.
We'll talk about trains in a couple of weeks.
And I believe we may, in hopefully the next couple months, have a retired GM designer on the show. So I'm working on that. I just gave you the list that's on my board. Derek's got a list of guests, and Will's actually working on a list of guests too. So we got an exciting fall. We're really going to try to be here every week. We're done with our breaks. I think our lives are kind of in order, other than the week that I moved my studio. But other than that, No Driving Gloves, Facebook. We're on Instagram, not very active again on Instagram, but watch us for us on Facebook, NoDrivingGloves.com. If you want any of the back episodes, we're like at 184, 185 episodes out there. Shoot us a message. Let us know what's going on. We'll talk to you next week. See you.